Hello viewers, my name is Tyler Marchand, and for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome to my world. I got my introduction on YouTube last year with Best and Worst lists of 2018. Starting this year, I took it upon myself to make best lists for every Billboard year. I have thus far completed every year from 1987 onwards, with the exception of one year. You guessed it, 2019. Today is when that most recent year gets added to my list. 2019 was actually a very good year for music, and quite a year to end the decade on. However, since the decade already had awesome years like 2012, 2015, and 2017, and years of similar quality like 2011 and 2013, 2019 winds up being middle tier when it comes to years from the 2010s. 2019 had one major quality that most of those other good years of the decade didn't have: a wild variety of hits. Country music had its best year since the bro country wave began. Christian music was actually represented on the charts, and this year's number one hits were tracks that I guarantee you would not have been number one hits in any other year. Not all of this year was good, but for now I'd like to focus on the positives. For those who are new, here are my rules. A song is only eligible for this list if it was on 2019's official year-end list, and it can't have appeared on a previous year-end list. This means that songs like Sicko Mode and Young Blood are ineligible. In fact, a year after making my 2018 best list, they will replace the two country songs that I have in my current 2018 best list honorable mentions. If you're to watch that video today, those two songs will replace Get Along and You Make It Easy on my honorable mentions. And the most important rule for my video is that these picks are all my opinion. You don't have to agree with it, but I expect you to be civil about it if you do disagree with it. Now that those rules are established, let's go through this year's 7 honorable mentions. And right off the bat, we're starting off with a potentially controversial pick, but I don't care. Besides, those who have seen my 2018 video will know that I tend to have a soft spot for Dan and Shay and their brand of pop country. This song is no different. With good vocal performances and guitar instrumentation, this song gets a thumbs up for me.
What do you want from me? Why don't you run from me? What are you wondering? Why do you know? Why aren't you still different?
I think it is obvious that teenaged artist Billie Eilish is the textbook definition of a breakout star, considering the year that she had and what she is hopefully setting up for 2020. Out of her hits, this is definitely the darkest of them. Throughout the year, I always found that her hits, which are popular on my local alternative radio stations, have some strange qualities about them that I was never able to put down into words. The use of audio filters really helps sell the creepiness of this song from the perspective of the monsters under the bed. I truly hope that 2020 is as kind to Billie Eilish as 2019 was, because she deserves it. I never personally thought that I'd be including Post Malone amongst the best songs of a certain year, but here we are. But then again, this is probably his most pop-friendly hit to date, with the light guitars in the background and a very catchy bass groove that drives the verses. His warbling voice has always been hit and miss for me, but it actually works well in this track about a very complicated relationship. If Post Malone is going to be sticking around, he should be making songs like this, and fewer songs like this. A year ago, if you were to tell me that the Jonas Brothers were to get back together, have a number one hit, and that hit would be amongst the biggest of the year, I would have laughed in your faces. But that was the type of year that 2019 was. For the most part, the reunion might not have been a good idea, but it did spawn one good earworm of a track. There exists the obvious comparisons to 2017's Feel It Still. I mean, Feel It Still is obviously the better track here, but this song is still novel enough to feel fresh. What else can I say? I like the song quite a bit. I'll be honest, the only reason this song is in the honorable mention section and not in the actual list proper is because it has been overplayed so often where I live that it is no longer as fresh as it was back in the summer. And that is a damn shame, since the smoky pianos sound fantastic along with Lizzo, who really has a lot of character behind the microphone. With this song being a #1 hit, and another big hit waiting in the wings for 2020, I hope that Lizzo sticks around, as right next to Billie Eilish, she is the Breakthrough Artist of the Year. Speaking of Billie... Yes, she has multiple songs appearing on my best list. FYI, while I do like her smash hit Bad Guy and understand why it was as big as huge as it was, it just missed out on my best list due to that one lyric. You know the one. And this extremely emotional track just barely missed the top 10 proper for me, but that is not to take away from the feels that I get listening through this song. The minimal piano instrumentation is perhaps what get me the most with this track. Stay tuned for a future video for an example of this done wrong. Hint, hint.
I will give you the world, baby girl. You just gotta be worthy. You don't gotta be perfect.
This was perhaps the surprise song on this list. Upon my initial listen, way back early in the year, I didn't really think much about this trap song, as YK Osiris's vocals were at first annoying, but then came a moment when I was able to get past them and start looking at the lyrical content. The annoying voice, for one, is kinda what holds the song back quite a bit. He wants to do anything for his lover, but he just asks that she be faithful in return. Now normally, considering the little drawback with his vocal performance, you would have to have something really special to catapult this to a position on my best list. And then that guitar solo came. I mean, in a decade where guitar solos are all but gone except for the very, very rare cases, this was a true breath of fresh air. I don't expect this guy to have another hit, but if it is like this, in quality, then I look forward to it. Alright, with those honorable mentions out of the way, now it is time that we start tackling the songs that made my best list proper. And as usual, we'll start out with number 10. Throughout my honorable mentions segment, I mentioned artists that broke out this year and that I expect will stick around into the 2020s. However, if you look at the year-end chart, some would point to another breakthrough artist. Even those who do point at this artist admit that he may very well be a one-year wonder. The song that occupies my number 10 slot comes from that artist, but not the hit that you probably thought it would be.
Don't you be a meanie, thought you wanted me to go, why you trying to keep me teeny? It's a dreamy, wished it on a genie, I got fans finally.
Be honest, does anyone here expect Lil Nas X to have any further success outside of 2019? Because I would be astonished if he did. He absolutely owned 2019 with Old Town Road, which topped the charts for more than a third of the year, setting a new record for most weeks spent at #1 in the process. I was always lukewarm on that song, and although it has grown on me as the year went on, but not enough to make the list. That's where Panini comes in. I think I should start my analysis of this short song with the obvious, the In Bloom interpolation. Of course, this song is nowhere near as iconic as that Nirvana song is, but I still like the song all the same, even if at the end of the day, the lyrical content is cribbed based off of a Cartoon Network show about a young cook. I mean, but then again, that's just the kind of year that 2019 was. Number 9. And now from a breakthrough artist who is more likely than not going to be a flash in the pan to a current rising star who I expect to stick around for quite a while. I think it is fair to say that North Carolinian Luke Combs has really upended country music in the latter part of the 2010s decade. The swing from bro country dreck that started near the beginning of the decade back more towards the new traditional sound may have been started by John Party with Head Over Boots, but Luke Combs brought that swing into the mainstream from the get-go, and 2019 was his biggest year yet. Now, admittedly, this song does have some of the common tropes of modern country music in its lyrical content, basically saying that only one thing has never let Luke Combs down. What really sells the song for me is Luke's barrel-chested voice, which automatically makes him a force in the industry, accented with the almost rock-like instrumentation. Those who are already familiar with my videos know that I tend to like country music, and, spoiler alert, there are still 3, maybe 4 left in this video. But for now, number 8. Now we move on from one of the artists who is admittedly saving country music from the bro dreck to one of the main villains during the bro years. Fun fact, despite the fact that Blake Shelton has had a very long string of #1 country hits throughout the 2010s decade, this was his biggest hit ever, as well as his first year-end appearance since Boys Round Here all the way back in 2013. Yeah, that song is why I lumped him in as one of the main villains of the bro country era, because that song is just, yikes. But it's good to see that he's finally come back and seen the light. I stand corrected. But I still, I can't deny that this is a great track. This is definitely the most country he's sounded in a long time, and while the lyrical content is, again, typical of modern country music, which is very rural-based, he more than makes up with his powerful vocal performance, especially in those choruses, which have some gospel flair to them. As that clip of Hell Right demonstrates, I don't think he's fully rehabilitated, but this is hopefully a step in the right direction. Number 7. Wow, I thought that this guy's peak was 5 years ago, just as I was graduating from high school. If Sam Smith is to continue having smash hits, and if they are to be in the EDM vein as opposed to his normal gospel-like lane, but to be honest, it wasn't too bad. It did produce I'm Not the Only One. But I'm all for Sam Smith's change in musical direction. The instrumentation for this song is very basic, but it is still a truly danceable tune. Without a doubt, this is the guy's best hit song, and it deserved to be the radio smash that it was. And then we get to Normani. Although Camila Cabello is establishing herself as the biggest solo star from the former X Factor formed girl group, Fifth Harmony, I think it is clear that Normani is the one with the best track record as a solo artist. Both Sam and Normani sound fantastic together as they find each other while out at a club trying to forget about the exes. To be honest, I was kind of disappointed with How Do You Sleep, but I still have hopes that Sam Smith will stick around and continue to produce quality hits. Number 6. Do most of you folks remember the dominant sound that started out the 2010s decade? Yes, the beginning of the club boom. Although it produced some real turds, I have to admit that in the coming years, the sound of songs like Jay Sean's Down will install a very strong sense of nostalgia in me. In fact, I think it might already be happening. And with that specific example, you already know where this is going. It wasn't for no reason that I used that specific example to introduce this pick, as the comparisons between the two songs really are impossible to ignore. Excuse me. And while Down will always be a classic, even with dated lyrics, especially by today's standards, this is still up there as a song that I would have loved if it were released back in the peak of the club boom. You have the lyrics where English musician Ava Max is describing a lovable person who may or may not have some maniacal tendencies. She's describing this person in the third person, only for the song to come full circle in the bridge when it turns out she's referring to herself all along. However, you all know the biggest quality that this song has going for it, that earworm of a chorus, of which I will call you a damned liar if you say that you don't at the bare minimum hum along with it whenever you hear it. I don't know if Ava Max will ever have another hit in the States, but if she does, I hope that it is like this song, since this is great. Number 5. It's kind of crazy to think that if it weren't for a certain record-breaking song, this song, which is also a record holder, would have been the biggest hit song of 2019. And that fact is even more astonishing once you add in the fact that this was a soundtrack song. I remember back around Thanksgiving of last year when this song debuted on the charts and almost immediately caught on as a hit. I remember that most reviewers in the reviewing community were relatively lukewarm at best about this song. I, on the offhand, immediately thought that this song was real quality right off the bat, and I was fearing list time 2019 when I would inevitably have to defend this song against others who probably weren't as hot about it as I was. Now, however, I don't have to worry about that since it seems that almost every major critic has come to embrace this song from the animated Spider-Man movie with open arms, a movie that I admit that I probably need to watch. The song's main draw for me is the instrumentation, which has this wonky-like quality that I can't quite put into words, most notably with the bass groove. And the light guitars in the background, most notable at the end of the song and during Sway Lee's pre-chorus. You also, speaking of which, it's the best vocal performance from both Sway Lee and Post Malone in a song that I've heard. You also have the lyrical content, which fits in well with the overall premise of the Spider-Man movies. There exists a love connection that stays strong despite the double life that the superhero has to live, and that it can be difficult having to spend more time away from the loved one than with. Again, this is a much-deserved smash hit that, need I remind you, was this close to being the number one song of 2019, but it will still remain a classic for years to come. At least for me. Number 4. I think it is kind of sad what has happened to one of the 2010s powerhouse vocalists in terms of musical quality. I mean, just because you finally get a number one hit, that doesn't mean that the quality of your music should go down the toilet. And believe me, when we get to my worst list, we will talk about that drop in quality. But for now, I'll take what I can get. Yes, the Ariana Grande song that is making my best list for 2019 is the one that wasn't even from her 2019 album, but from her 2018 album that had very few singles released. The Sweetener album still had some traces of the throwback sounds that populated Ariana's best work from her Dangerous Woman era, but as songs like God is a Woman showed, you also showed that there's a bit of a slight shift toward a trap rap direction. The implications of that will come full circle in a future video, but for now, I think it is fair to say that out of the scant singles that were released from Sweetener, this is by far the best of them. Out of the 5 songs of hers that made the 2019 year-end list, this is also the only one where she has full use of her vocal pipes on a track describing all the emotions going through her while the Manchester terrorist attack was going on at a concert of hers. I can't even imagine what it was like being there at the time, but she captures that feeling perfectly. With the chorus emphasizing that she has to stay calm, this song even features a synthesizer solo. You can't say that most tracks from 2019 had that, can you? This is the Ariana Grande that I like and that I hope that I hear more going forward, though I'm kind of a bit worried. Number 3. Considering the year that country music had in 2019, I think it is only fair for my best list to end off with country songs, or at the very least, songs that have a country-like feel to them. I'll explain what I mean by this later on. And we're going to be starting off this top 3 with a song that most of you should have seen coming once I put another song from this duo in my honorable mentions. I find it amazing that Dan and Shay had a song chart for more than the full 20 weeks, leave the charts, and then, practically unexpectedly, get a second wind. This allowed Tequila from 2018 to log a second year on the year-end Hot 100, and if I were to make that list again, I'd probably place the song a bit higher on that list, as I think that number 10 may have been a bit too low for me. But for that scenario that I just described to happen twice, something is going on. This time, it happened with Speechless, which will inevitably become a wedding staple in years to come if it isn't already one now. Its probabilities of making the 2019 year-end list were pretty borderline when it left the charts initially, but with its second wind, after getting pushed to pop radio, it was all but guaranteed to land on the list, and it did so pretty comfortably. It was practically almost as big as Tequila was last year in terms of chart position. I would normally spend more time talking about the song itself, but like I said, there isn't much more to it than being a wedding song. I mean, hell, the closest thing the song has to an official music video is footage of the duo's shared weddings. But there are still elements of this song that I can focus on, which are very strong. The vocal performance is very good as usual from the duo, not to mention that guitar solo after the second chorus. Wrong clip. As long as Dan and Shay continue making songs like this, aka better songs than their current collaboration with Justin Bieber, 10,000 Hours, they will still remain in my good graces even if they are purely pop country. Number 2. This entry is yet another one that the viewers should have seen coming once another song from this artist appeared earlier on my top 10 proper. To date, this is Luke Combs' biggest hit song, and I'll just say this right now. If even though I'm leaving survives the holiday season and makes 2020's year-end list, I'll be talking about him again this time next year. But for now, you have this drift-back ballad describing his girlfriend and how she makes his world eons better. Luke Combs gives perhaps his best vocal performance ever, as he utilizes his unique voice so that it fits in with the love-struck nature of the lyrics. But the instrumentation also does its bit to fit in. Banjos in the background help drive the verses along. My favorite bits come from those fiddles that play through the choruses. In short, everything comes together nearly seamlessly to make a phenomenal ballad, but not quite my favorite hit song from this year. That goes to Number 1. For those of you who have seen my list so far and know what is potentially left to talk about from this year, a fair argument can be made that this pick isn't entirely country. Fuck it, why am I even delaying the inevitable? Only someone clueless to popular music from this year won't see where I'm going with this. Going back to what I was saying before, I understand that people might not consider this country music. However, when I hear this song, I hear a rootsy Americana sound, which for me has always been closely related to the country music that I grew up listening to. I really don't think that roots music, Americana, are that far away removed from country. Now, onto the song. The Americana sound comes from the initial light acoustic guitar instrumentation that mostly populates the first half of this song. Then you have some slide guitar that comes in later. Along with lyrics about not thinking about the implications of falling in love, but just going for it head first. With this sound, the American sound, it doesn't tend to produce much immense chart success, so it was kind of questionable how long this song would last after the Christmas season was winding to a close, as this song originally debuted on the charts back in the heart of the fall of 2018, almost at the height of when A Star Is Born was all the buzz. But I guess you could call that the story of music in 2019. A bunch of songs getting big that just a few months earlier would have been easily forgotten. But when the movie became a multi-Oscar nominee and the song got a big revival, even topping the charts for a week, this gave Lady Gaga her first big hit since nearly the beginning of the decade. Before I get to Lady Gaga herself, I should say that this song actually proves that Hangover star Bradley Cooper is actually not that bad of a singer, as he's able to hold himself both solo and in the duet sections. However, it is obvious that Lady Gaga is the vocal star of the song, especially once that chorus hits, with her best parts coming from the build-up to that second chorus. I was kind of slow to gravitate towards the song initially, but at the end of the decade, Shallow is my pick for the best hit song of 2019. Well, that was my list. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, and promote my channel, and talk about my channel with others so that I can grow my audience. Also, feel free to leave a comment down below. One thing that I always ask of people as they leave comments in my videos is to keep it civilized, and as long as that criteria is met, I will tolerate almost any criticism. And also talk about mainly anything you want, just kind of ask me opinions about other songs. I'm open to that. Just know that for that sort of things, my opinions are those. My opinions, and while I do not expect that everyone will agree with everything I say, I expect you to at least respect it. Okay, for those of you who have watched this video, I hope to see you all back here on Monday the 16th for my worst list. As stated in the discussion section of my YouTube page, which I updated yesterday, the premiere time for that video will be at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And again, like with this video, I will be here an hour early to participate in a group chat. Until then, I'm Tyler Marchand, and I'll see you later. Take care.